You're welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching Business Morning. We're coming to you live from Channels Television, broadcasting from Lagos. I am Bolaji Akinwale. Just to let our viewers know that any moment from now, we will be joining a live coverage in Benin City, the Edo State capital, where the Edo State Town Hall meeting is expected to begin. So we'll be hooking up with Benin City any moment from now to cover the Edo State Town Hall meeting. And back to our conversation for today, which is on the power sector. Of course, like I told you earlier on, the federal government granted about 19.6 billion naira in waivers and exemptions to energy firms in the country in 5 months, that's between January and May. And we are now being joined by two power sector operators and, of course, the experts, Adekola Adedeji and Effium Edit. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program. I'm going to start with Adekola. I just want us to assess what's going on in the power sector. What's your assessment?
Well, when you talk about power sector, really, you talk about three broad areas, and that is the generation aspect, the transmission aspect, the distribution, and that's what the consumers, interact with, and want to ensure that they are getting power as at when due. Well, in generation, we are aware, like you have said in your comments earlier on, after the unbundling of this, the whole spectrum, we saw that quite a number, most of the former generating plants have been sold out to private investors. The transmission aspect, that is still with the government for strategic reasons. And then the distribution side also have been sold out to investors. And there's no doubt that that was a very good development. It took off from the reforms that have taken place between 2001 and 2010. So far, all I can say is that there have been improvements in every segment, particularly in generation. With many of the plants having challenges in the area of gas supply because 70% of our power generation, are from gas, gas-fired plants. While the remaining has to do with hydro and all these renewable energy sources. So you can see why whenever anything happens to gas, it's felt everywhere because it's the major chunk of the power production. And this is where we're seeing that occasional challenges. It starts mostly on gas situation. But I know government is doing a lot to improve the situation with gas, while attempts are being made to work on renewable energy sources as well as hydro. Having said that on generation, let's look at transmission. Yes, government is still keeping this because it's the major link between generation and disco. You can even call the discos, that is, consumers on one side, because they have to sell the energy to real end consumers, so to say. Government is making sure more and more investments are still being put into transmission, because you need to strengthen this major link production. We could see that in the recent times, many investors and World Bank, African Development Bank, French Development Banks, they have all been doing one thing or the other to make sure that this sector is strengthened. And whenever we have power to generate, we can conveniently evacuate the power and deliver to the distribution companies, which eventually will deliver to the consumers. So that, now talking of distribution companies, there's no doubt there have been improvements here and there, because you can't compare with what we were having before. The scenario has changed, though they still have their challenges. Challenges in the areas of some weak infrastructures. They need to strengthen their distribution network too. And then they are still having these issues with the consumers. Either the meters are not there, people are protesting. There are challenges they are facing in that sector. But one thing is very clear. National Electricity Regulatory Commission, made it clear that any of the discos, they cannot possibly come up with a meter they feel is suitable for them. Because some of them are still even challenging that maybe some prepaid meters are not suitable for them. They believe they could be tampered with. Are you with me? Some of them are still hesitant in really, going for prepaid meter. But they said they come up with some solutions on their own. So we're waiting for them. But in the meantime, the midway approach that NEC has given is that they should operate with this MITO thing. MITO simply multi-year tariff order, and then a kind of arrangement whereby if any of the disco cannot afford to buy, maybe invest in meters or so, there's a midway arrangement whereby the banks can be there, maybe the consumers can pay to the bank. Are you with me? Once the meter is produced by the discos, then the meter can be made available. But the issue has been this prepayment meter, which is very important that for the consumers to make sure that they are being fairly charged for what they are consuming.
We'll get back to the issue of prepaid meter if time permits before we come to Edose. I want FM to come in at this point and talk about the issue of supply of gas. I know that despite the various efforts that the federal government has made to unbundle the PHCN, create distribution or allow distribution companies and generation companies to come in or private operators in general, we're not really seeing improved supply of electricity.
That's not necessarily true. There's been improved supply of gas. If you recall, we moved from about 300 million SCOF to about 1 billion now. However, we're not yet there. Prior to now, we did not get the gas strategy right until the gas emergency took off. And this year, we've had government being very, very responsive in terms of gas price, in terms of legacy debt payment. I can tell you boldly too that quite a lot of things are happening within the gas sector, and interestingly being driven by indigenous operators. We're looking the next 2-3 years to have about 1 billion SCOF added to gas supply in our domestic market. Now, having said that, a lot more still needs to be done. We really need to improve on the fiscal incentive. We know in the oil and gas industry, it's far easier to develop oil than develop gas for obvious reasons. So you need to convince me as an investor why I need to give preference to gas.
I think we've been told that the gas reserves that we have in the country is even more than oil. We're just not tapping into it and taking advantage of it.
Nigeria is essentially a gas province.
So why are we still having issues with having to supply it to the power sector?
We need
generation of electricity.
We need to look at it from economic point of view. Right. Prior to now, private sector have not consciously invested in gas. What has been happening is government have a project, industrial base, like way back in the 60s, we had Aba and Port Harcourt, Transamadi, or in the 70s, 80s, when we wanted to build gas plants, Egbin and the rest, you ask the IOCs, the majors, okay, we need gas for this project, and they go to develop it. But now, investors are seeing the benefit in developing gas assets. And it's going to take a while, because it's not just about developing the gas field. You also need to build infrastructure, notably the distribution network. Today, the most significant network we have is the ELPS, Escravos Lagos Pipeline System. Now, there's effort to do the OB3, that is the Obagi, Obricom, Oben, that will link the west to the east. So that way, we could manage swing supplies, all right? Like I said earlier, within the shortest possible time of 2 to 3 years, we'll start seeing significant changes. And until that happens, we will not start seeing the impact of gas-powered electricity in Nigeria the way we want it.